And I believe we're streaming on YouTube. It's telling me we're on YouTube, so I'm going to go with what that little note up there says. We're streaming on YouTube. Hello, everybody. How you doing? We're sorry we didn't get to be here last week, but we're here this week and looking forward to what Terry has prepared for us. And I'm hungry, Terry. I'm hungry. I need some food. So it's good to see you tonight. And I'm going to let you greet everybody in the Zoom room right after I greet everybody in Power Faith Radio. We've been working on a new website for Power Faith Radio, so we'll hopefully be launching that pretty soon. But those of you listening, we thank you so much. And if you want to come on over and join us in the Zoom room, you can go over to our Facebook page, A Simple Walk. It's a public Facebook page. Just go on in there and you'll find the link for the Zoom room. You'll find the link to come into the YouTube channel. And while you're there, go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell. You'll be notified every time a new video goes up. And of course, the Power Faith Radio link. While I'm talking about it, send us an email. You can send an email to outreachnoah@gmail.com. Terry, we did get an email, a prayer request this past week, and I thought it very interesting. And so we've got two little babies on our list. It was about two little babies, and so I'll bring that up when we get to our tzedakah time. So, okay, Terry, you ready to greet everybody in the Zoom room?
Yes, sir.
Go right ahead.
Be a lot better if I could be on that beach behind Ronald instead of sitting in.
Well,
see, what are we down? See, we're dropping fast. We're supposed to be in the teens by about 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. That's cold for Southeast Tennessee.
That's cold. That's cold.
I know it's colder up there where you're at, Scotty, than it is here, but we're having a quick thing about it is it's going to be mid-60s by this time next week.
Yeah. We got 20
and you wonder why we have sinus and flu and coughs and aches down here, because you go from 15 degrees, tonight, and by next week it's supposed to be, I think, high in the mid-60s, lows in the 40s, and back, and it's just.
I took some pictures this past week of some, I think that's Easter lilies or day lilies or something. I don't know, buttercups or something.
No, daffodils are blooming. We got them all over the yard.
Yeah, we got them in our backyard in my employer. And I put one of them on Facebook and said, it has begun. And this morning when I was over at my employer's, I pulled up in the yard and every one of them cups had snow in it. And they just...
Yeah, I mean, when we got up this morning, just had a small dusting, and about 30 minutes later, we had about 2 inches on the ground. So it hit pretty quick down here. Just kind of like what that meme I saw with the groundhog saying we got 6 weeks of winter.
Yeah,
the meme says, he's predicting 6 more weeks of winter, and then he says, "Well, South, y'all just do whatever you want. You're going to do that anyhow."
Well,
and we do.
The past 2 weeks, we have a swamp area just down the road here a little bit, and tree frogs have been singing in it.
Wow.
And my grandmother always told me that when the tree frogs sing in February, they'll be looking through ice in March. Well,
yeah, we've had snow down here as late as the second week of March.
Yeah.
We had the big one in 93. I think it was 70 degrees the day before, and then we had 36 inches the next day.
Yep.
So anyhow, yes, enough of us talking about our
local weather.
Southern local weather down here.
Yeah.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Outreach Noah class tonight. Like Sky said, sorry we couldn't be with you last night. We had some work conflicts. It kind of happens from time to time. Scotty and I, we sometimes have work that steps in and says, "Nah, you can't go nowhere. You got to do this." So that happens a couple of times a year with us and everything, but we're okay. We're good with it. We just pick up and go on. But tonight, of course, we got Scotty down in the engine room pushing all the buttons and hope we don't go dark or get slung up against the wall or whatever.
Yeah.
Then Ronald and Bob Amwella, glad to see you tonight, and Sabra. And Joanne, I didn't see Joanne.
Yeah,
hers blended in right in. Hers blended in with Veronica's. I didn't see it. And of course, Veronica's here. Veronica, where are you at tonight?
I am in just north of Raleigh, North Carolina.
Oh, so you've moved north a little bit.
Yep, getting snow.
All righty. Like Scotty said, anyone who wants to join us in the Zoom room, you can go over to a simple walk, and Scotty's got the Zoom room links posted there. Click them, come on in, join us. You don't have to have your camera on, but you're welcome to come and join us anytime, or you can join us over on our YouTube channel at Outreach Noah on our YouTube channel. We're broadcasting live there, and Power Faith Radio. We're also on the radio. There's links there if you need to listen to us on the radio. If you don't have video capabilities to watch YouTube or anything, you can listen via the radio station that Scotty's got set up there. And greetings to the Power Faith Radio as well. Almost did a tongue tied there,
yes,
Scotty. But tonight we're going to continue on part 2 of our journeying into Genesis. We're going to be talking about before the beginning a little bit. We're going to get into the first word. This is not going to be a quick study of Genesis. It's going to be a fairly lengthy one. In this case, we'll be like in the first sentence, we're going to be looking at all the individual words, learning about things there. We're going to have some of the verses that will be that way, that we'll actually look at every single word and take our time with that. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to send them to Scotty. You can contact Scotty or I on Facebook page and at our personal ones, and or a simple walk, and or you can contact us at outreachnoah@gmail.com. Have your notebooks handy and your pens and paper, because we're going to be covering things, like I said last week, some things that many folks has not heard. We weren't privy to a lot of this information because we wasn't given the Torah nor the information of the Torah as those of the nations. We're going to be learning from our brothers of the priesthood of Israel as we go through these things. And you're going to be enlightened in some areas. Some areas you might have a hallelujah moment, an aha moment, whatever happens. It's really cool. Genesis is an amazing book, something that hardly any of us has ever really spent any time in, other than reading the English translation or the translation of the language that you are in. Because I know we are worldwide. We've got people in Brazil and Germany and different places that listens to us on the radio station. And so I know they're probably reading in their respective languages. But very few of us has ever dived into the original Hebrew and what it means, from the way the priest has told us what it means and things that they have understood for nearly 3,400 years. So it's a very fascinating study, and just join us in along. If you got some friends that's interested in wanting to learn some things about, things about Genesis, bring them along, invite them, and they're free to ask questions and get questions to Scotty too. I guess y'all like how I want Scotty to ask.
Yeah.
He's not only the engineer, he's also the mailman.
Yeah,
for us. He's the mailman for us.
I tell everybody when they call me, they say, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm putting out fires and tying up smoke."
There you go. So, anyhow, but greetings again, everybody, tonight. And Scotty, are you about ready?
I am ready. I'm ready. We appreciate everybody who's participated in this Sadaka time. We did get a few names through, and so we're just going to just start right in this so we can give Terry plenty of time. We appreciate everybody, and I just hold on. Sorry, guys. I just gotta send somebody. There comes Will in. About time I started sending somebody this. Hold on just a minute. I'm sorry, guys.
No problem.
I get these
requests.
These to link. Yeah. Okay. Now let me find everybody. There you are. Hello, everybody. I'm back. Okay. As always, we give tzedakah for our main teacher, Pesach and Shira Sherbo. They live in Sfat, Israel. And then we have Jeremy Kibbe. Jeremy Kibbe still on our tzedakah list, and remember him in prayer. Also, we got Carol St. George. I felt like keeping her on the tzedakah list this week. And then Kelly Corad, I think I got that name correctly, is on our tzedakah list this week. Also, Christina Hall, I think she's still going through her treatments. Has anybody kept up with that? I think she's got a few more treatments left, so we'll keep her on the tzedakah list. And then Wendell and Mary Parsons, we've got them on our tzedakah list this week. And Pamela Steffi, we have her still on our tzedakah list. Janice Brandon, did I pronounce that correctly?
So did.
Okay, we've got her on our tzedakah list today. And then Chrissy Seaton. How's Chrissy doing? I noticed she's putting out a few videos.
Yeah, I haven't spoken to her yet this week, but my understanding is that things are going along quite smoothly for her, so all's good there.
Great. We've got a little baby on we got two. I'm going to name this first one as a little girl. And her name is Emery, a little girl named Emery. And we haven't heard an update on her, but it wasn't looking real good for her. And then also we have a little baby boy who is 1 year old. And the family just wanted us to call him John. And we given tzedakah for them tonight. I'm not going to go into too much details about the little boy, but I know the other one was in the hospital and it wasn't looking very well. So let's remember that. And then, well, I think I can. It's Diana Root. I think it's Root. Thank you, Terry. I can't read my own writing even with glasses on. So thank you, Terry, for helping me on that. And then also somebody always sends in something for Amuela Asher. Yeoman Asher, thank you for sending that. And in the same boat, they send $1 for Veronica Port. And also in the same boat, they send one for Thomas Schaus. Now, I don't know which one of you ladies, Thomas isn't here tonight to defend himself, so I can go ahead and say, I don't know if you ladies feel comfortable being put in the same boat with Thomas Schaus. The only thing I can tell you is you'll never go hungry. He'll catch a bug and fix it for you real quick. So anyway, we're giving tzedakah for y'all. That's your $1 someone sent in for you that went into the tzedakah box. Nadine Akins is on our tzedakah list tonight. She has a very important appointment tomorrow. I'll be there with her. We will be there with her, getting her through that. And then also Ronald Dickman and his sister. And I'm going to get you to say your sister's name, Ronald, because you know I can't do it. So tell us about you and your sister.
Diane Bankier. Yeah, I'm doing fine. Diane's not so good. Still no evaluation that can work out what's wrong. But she's had a couple of injections. I'm not sure whether they were steroid or what, but she's had some minor relief, but overall not too big a change.
Okay. Well, we're going to keep her on our tzedakah list. On our blessed memory tzedakah list tonight, we have two. We have Sheila Lawrence is on our blessed memory tonight. And then we also have Shmuel Ben Lay, if I got that correctly. That was Mr. Cole's, a good friend of his. So we've got them on our blessed memory list tonight. Would you help us pray tonight? Hear our voice, Adonai, our God, Father of mercy. Have compassion on us and accept our prayers with compassion and favor. For we know that you are a God who hears prayers and supplications. You are our King. Do not send us away empty-handed. Favor us and answer us and listen to our prayers. Amen. All right, Terry, I'm going to get ready to put you on speaker view tonight and just let you start off and we'll go from there.
Do we have anything left over from last week before we get started?
You mean the week before last?
Week before last. Yep.
Week before last. We did, and unfortunately, Terry, I apologize. I didn't get here in time to get those sorted out. But next week, we will add those to what you're going to talk about this week.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
They'll probably fit right in because, like I said, we're going to still our primary resources for our study is the Art Scroll Tanakh series, Bereishit or Genesis, and the Hirsch Genesis. And we're going to be looking through both of those tonight. There's tons of information. I would just alone, if I went through the overview of the book in the Tanakh series, would take us probably a month or better just to go through that. So I have to kind of pull out what's really for us to learn. Some of it's really interesting, really interesting as far as, tickling the curiosity, but not all of it's for learning for what we need to understand from the book of Genesis as the Torah as instruction, because the Torah is instruction. And some of this is, I guess you might say history or whatever, like we covered a little bit last week, but it's important because like tonight we're going to be getting into before the beginning, because this is important for us to understand these elements of the very first word of Genesis, which is Bereishit, which is Sephardic, or Bereishit, which is Ashkenaz, however you want to pronounce it. But we're going to be getting into that word. Next week, we'll get into the word bara, the word create. And it's just so important for what we're learning here as a foundation, because like I said, many of us was raised with taking the book we had and going to the middle of it and never visiting the first part. And because it's been not properly understood, that the Torah is old, it's going away. No, it's forever. The Creator says it's an eternal book. It's going to be eternal. Even when we get into the next world, it's still going to be there because it's eternal, because it's the mind of God. It's always been with the Creator. Now it's in written form. The way He gives it to us is His mind. And so it's very important because there's things we're going to learn within the first few chapters of Genesis that's going to rock some worlds, because I'm going to be honest with you, it's going to upset some theological ideas and dogmas when you learn this. But we're going to be looking at this as a learning instruction, not an attacking of anything. We're just going to say this is what it is. And then we each individually have to look at it and make our own decisions when we learn some things that the Creator gave us that the nations pretty much ignored. And I don't lay it all blame as on ignoring, because we didn't have the original language nor the original understanding. We did the best we had with what we had. Guess you could say it that way. So in this next session, in the overview of creation in the Art Scroll Tanakh series, before the beginning, prior to the creation, there was nothing but the glory of God. Prior to the creation, there was nothing save the glory of God, says the authors of this introduction. Absolutely nothing. It is a concept that we creatures in a physical world cannot even begin to comprehend. Just as a blind cannot comprehend a sunset and the deaf cannot comprehend a symphony. And we conceive of a world without time or space. Scotty, can you hear me okay? My mic okay? Okay. We can speak of it, think of it, but in truth, we cannot really imagine phenomena so foreign to our experience. It is illustrative that the most vivid imagination. Now, most people that's been listening, for a while knows that I'm a Trekkie. And I've used a lot of Star Trek in teachings from the scientific aspect. And I love Trek. I love Star Wars. I love anything space. I've been watching Andromeda. I'm going to watch some of the older 1980 ones here pretty soon. Now that I've got a channel that plays a lot of the older shows, I'm going through and catching up stuff I watched when I was a kid, didn't understand what I was watching. But this is very interesting what it says here. It says, it is illustrative that the most vividly imaginative fictional concepts of creatures from another planet do not really leave the experience of Mother Earth. They portray beings that are a montage of living things and laboratory experiments, but there is nothing, and I thought this very interesting, there is nothing that is truly beyond the experiences of man. So if you think about it, and I do this a lot since, like I said, I'm a Trekkie, I'm a space nut, love anything, all things space, fiction, nonfiction. And I'm constantly watching, and you really watching these planets. They all have resemblances of Earth, which we know that's possible because we have pictures of Mars and the moon, and there's mountains and valleys and things like that. But the creatures always comes from an earthly experience. We cannot escape, which I'll read that here in a minute. We cannot escape the earthly experience. Our imagination cannot go beyond that which we've never experienced. So we have, no matter what shape of creatures, most of them got arms, legs, mouths, nose of some sort. They may look like humans, animals, insects, whether it be on land or in sea. There could be creatures that have multiple image of sea and land animals together. We can only imagine that what we have experienced in the earth, whether it be, fiction or nonfiction. There was existence prior to creation is completely unfathomable. It's unfathomable. If someone comes up to you and say, hey, I've got this figured out, you need to turn around and walk off. Because you cannot experience something that we never experienced on earth. The closest that I feel, as I've meditated this week on this, the closest I feel like we can come close to getting an idea of there was nothing, but God at the creation, there was nothing, is maybe, one time we weren't born. Things were going on without us. And then we come into the world. Yeah, we can look at the history, but there's no way we could know other than when we watch history, but there's no way we can really understand even say history because we weren't there. We didn't experience it. And so in essence, man did not experience the nothingness before creation. And as I've said before, I think sometimes the word nothing is a poor word, but it's the only English word we have. Because if you have nothing, then there has to be something to be nothing of. And there was no something except for God himself. We're going to see that. Therefore, there was no sun or moon. They were created on the fourth day. There was no angels. They were created on the second day. And this one's very interesting. There was not even light or darkness. They were created on the first day. That seems like a contradiction in terms. If there was no light, then there was automatically darkness. For is not darkness the absence of light? No. For even that seemingly basic concept is a product of our earthbound experience. Darkness was a part of the creation. It did not exist. So even the subject of light and darkness is a product of our earthbound experience. There was only God, incorporeal, omnipresent, without beginning, without end. But God wanted to do good to beings apart from himself. And in order to make it possible for him to do so, he created the universe with a human life. Because God is absolutely perfect, he wanted that good that he had, that he would confer upon others, to be equally perfect. This could be possible only if the beneficiaries of his goodness would be enabled to share in the perfection of his holy glory. Now, that's going to be hard for some. Being able to share in his perfect holy glory. We're going to see how that is so as we continue on in Genesis. Scotty, anything before I get over into the first word, Rabbi Hirsch? All right. The Hirsch Hamish Bereishit or Bereishit, Genesis in English. We're going to look at the first word, Bereishit. Rabbi Hirsch starts off here, says he's got it in the Hebrew, Bereishit bara Elohim. We're going to be looking at all of this for the next couple of weeks. But Bereishit is made up of a couple of words because you have the bet in front of it, which can be in, which we get into the beginning, or it can be from, which we'll see. Rabbi Hirsch's English translation uses the word from. And you have Rashit. And part of Rashit, you have Rosh, which means head, and Reish. We're going to look at the word Reish as aspect because there's broken down into several words. But the word Reish is phonetically related to two other Hebrew words, which denotes a movement. One of those words denotes a spatial movement, whereas the other one denotes an inner movement. Accordingly, Reish, which we have here, Bereishit, is the source of movement, the origin of all outer and inner movement. So we have here in this word the source of all outer and inner movement. Hence, the word Reshit, this first word in the Torah, means a beginning of movement. So a beginning of movement. So we have this word, the very first word of the Torah, means there is something that is beginning to move that wasn't moving before. It wasn't there. It is a beginning in time, but not in space. So Rashit is the beginning of the movement of time. In the beginning of all existence. He goes on and says the verse here, Bereishit bara Elohim, says, our verse means then, because it's the beginning of time and not space, it's in the beginning of all existence. It was God who created. From the very beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. In any event, the Bereishit, the very first word, proclaims that nothing exists prior to God's act of creations. This is the reason why he gives this word to us. Because in this word, we learn that nothing existed before God. And that the heavens and the earth were created only through God's word. Scripture thus teaches us that the world was brought into existence from non-existence. This constitutes the basic or the basis of the conviction that the Torah seeks to instill in all of us. So the very first thing we learn here in Genesis from the very first word is that there was a beginning, a movement of time. Time was created. Then space was created. But this first word in the beginning, it's translated in the beginning or from the beginning, tells us right off the bat, there was nothing but God in the beginning. There were no gods, no Godhead, no plural persons. None of that existed. None of that existed. And we're going to see that as we get into this further, that there is only, matter of fact, in Isaiah 45, he says, there is no other. I am God. Ani Hashem va'enod. Isaiah 45. I am God and there is no other. And there's even a deeper teaching on that passage of no other. Goes even deeper than just, what we physically think of no other. But the first word is there to tell us there was a time when there was only God, nothing else. Only him, his glory, his mind. Now we're using human terms. That doesn't even do best. I mean, because the word God is even really not the best word. It's an English word. It's when we look at the word El, like we have in Elohim, it means source, power. Rabbi Hirsch goes on and says, the opposite notion is that the belief in the entirety of the world. Now, this is going on into a misunderstanding from pagan beliefs. Because he talks about this, and you'll see why. I wasn't going to cover this tonight, but as I just kept looking at it, it needed to be covered because it's just to understand, again, the word Bereishit as we get into it. The opposite notion is the belief, the opposite of believing that there was only God. The opposite notion is the belief in the eternity of the world, which is the cornerstone of pagan belief until this very day. This belief is not only a metaphysical falsehood, a misrepresentation of the origin of the universe, but even worse, it undermines all morality and it denies all freedom in both God and man. If matter had antedated creation, if matter pre-existed creation, then the creator of the universe would have been able to fashion from the material that was given to him, not a world that was absolutely good, but only the best world possible within the limitations of the material that was given him. In that case, all evil, natural and moral, would be due to inherent faultlessness of the material, and not even God himself would be able to save the world from evil or natural or natural or moral. What it is saying, if God was given the material that pre-existed creation, then he couldn't have actually saved it because it was something he didn't create, something that was beyond him. God would not be master over all the material of the world, and man would not be a master of his own body, because the material that he would have made us from came from something other than himself. Freedom would vanish, and the whole world, including its God and the men who live in it, would be propelled by blind, immutable fate. In watching a lot of sci-fi that I watch, to be able to enjoy the work of sci-fi, sometimes, I'm not saying you have to look over it, but it's interesting to look into it as well. Like, a lot of it denies the existence of God, and they try to do everything in the world around explaining how something happened without a creator. Or they bring into the stage a wide variety of creators. And I've been seeing that in some of the shows I've been watching. And so it's been interesting. I used to kind of get upset with it, but now I'm kind of look at it to try to understand it. But there's, and the issue here where it brought in about fate, a blind, immutable fate is always, fate is a subject of those who deny God, who deny his existence, his pre-existence before creation. And I've been finding it interesting in how they have to deal with that. And if they could sit back and look at it, they don't do a very good job because it's hopeless. There's no hope. If there is no creator who created us, that breathed into us, and there is only blind fate, then there's why exist, why live? Have your party, then leave the world. The living by blind, immutable fate is hopelessness in the long run. But I find for some reason science, especially science fiction, tends to want to go that direction. They do everything in this world to show that there isn't, try to show that there is no creator, and they fail at it. This bleak conception of God, world, and man is dispelled by the light of the Torah within its first words, Bereishit bara Elohim. Everything that follows hinges on these words. And Bereishit bara Elohim is in the beginning, God created. Those three words. Like I said, we're going to be getting into them individually. Tonight, we're only looking at Bereishit. Everything that follows hinges on these words. Everything, the matter and the form of all that exists, was created by the free, almighty creator. And the creator still rules freely over the matter and form of every existing thing, over the forces that act upon that matter. We're here on Earth. We have a force called gravity. Creator rules over that. We have other forces. We have the forces of the pressures coming from our sun, our moon, and other planets. He rules over those. We have the force that spins our world, keeps it on its axis. Our axis is there. He rules over that. He rules over the rotation of the planets around the sun, the rotation of the galaxy. I follow some science, like with telescopes, the Weber telescope and all those. And I've seen artist drawings of the universe from like millions of years ago, the Milky Way, in how it was positioned, because it's moving. And yes, millions of years ago, that doesn't deny, because we have here, the sages teaches us this is not chronological. The earth can be millions of years old. Man is only roughly just under 6,000. But God doesn't give us all that detailed information because it's not pertinent to our learning to live as a man, as a woman, as a neighbor, as a community, as a nation. The information, some of this information is really cool that we can gather. I mean, we had geologists. I've been watching a geologist show here lately, and them going and studying the rocks of the Grand Canyon and things is really cool. Learning about the earth, that was here before we were, and I'm one of those. I believe it was here, millions of years. How many? I don't know. But when we look at the earth geologically, we can see that it was here, but that doesn't denote that, because like Rabbi Hirsch puts, from the beginning. And then the sages also say it's in the beginning of God's creating, which we're going to get into later, but the beginning of. So there's a lot of time that went on. And God doesn't tell us about that time. He just gives us the information that's pertinent for you and I to live on this earth, to walk with him and to walk with fellow man. That's the reason for the big gaps. I had a young gentleman the other night was talking to me about the gap theory between, some verses here. And there is not really a theory. There is a gap, but God doesn't include us on the information in that gap because it's not privy for us. We probably learn it later, but it's not important information for our existence. But for those of us who like science, it's pretty cool. But Rabbi Hirsch goes on and says, everything that God is the creator, he is free. He rules over all matter, all form, all forces, over the laws by which these forces operate. We're going to get into that a little bit when we get into Genesis chapter 1, verses 11 and 12. And we're going to be looking at the law of species when we get over there. So there's different laws that apply to all different aspects of the creation, and God is the ruler of all of these laws and forces. It says, for the free and the almighty will of God created matter and caused these forces to act upon it, and his will set the laws by which forms are fashioned. He set the laws by which forms are fashioned. And to understand that, this is an example. Inside an acorn is an oak tree. And that is a law in which the form of the oak tree is fashioned. There's laws, the kind of bark it's going to have, there's different kinds of oaks, red oaks and white oaks and black oaks. And each have different kinds of barks. The leaves are just a little bit different. The acorns are just a little bit different. The corn stalk contains within the corn stalk, as that little kernel of corn comes up out of the ground, the laws that God put in that corn stalk tells it the shape it's going to be, how long it's going to, how tall it's going to be, how many corn, is going to grow on these things. Grapevines aren't going to grow blueberries. They're going to grow grapes, and some of them are going to be red, some of them are going to be green. So you see, everything on earth, including you and I, within our form, there are God fashioned laws and forces within us and our very being that makes all of his creation its individual piece, and he rules over that. And just as God rules freely over his world, so he made man master over his small world. God breathed into man a spark of his own free essence, so that man should freely master his body and its forces. We're going to get into a little bit more about that when we get, into when he breathed into man. But understand, God breathed into man a spark of his own free essence. We get the free will. Our soul comes from God. We're the only part of God's creation that he breathed into. He didn't breathe on us. He breathed into us. A free essence that came from him, that man should freely master his body and its forces. You've got so many people who want to rule the world but hadn't learned to rule their own bodies. But I can say all of us don't rule our own bodies. We all have our devices. Some are tempted by theft, others by biscuits and gravy. That's me. But all of us have devices and forces within us that we have to learn to rule and master. And that's one of the things Veronica has been going through Orcus Akim, reading about Musar, which is character traits. I think it's on Rumble. Is it on Rumble, Veronica? She's still
Yes.
there. Okay, it's on. Is it in your name? Is it under Veronica or simply Noahide?
Simply Noahide.
Okay. If you get a chance, get on Rumble, look up Simply Noahide. She's been reading through a book called Orchis Sadikim, which covers character traits. And that's what she's kind of reading through and talking about, is learning how to master the sources that's within us. He placed man as an image of God in a world governed by his omnipotence. The world that was created, Bereishit, is not the best one that could be fashioned with the given material. Rather, it is the only good world. When I first read that, I had to go back and reread that a few times. The way Rabbi Hirsch wrote that. The world that was created, Bereishit, is not the best one that could be fashioned with the given material. Rather, it was the only good world, meaning he purposely, and we're going to see this, he purposely didn't fashion a perfect world. He fashioned a good world. This world, with all of its seamless flaws, correspond with the wise plan of the Creator. He could have created a different world had such a world corresponded with his will. Man, who was created, Bereishit, with all his moral shortcomings, has the ability to attain the moral perfection set before him by the Creator. I'm going to say that again. Man who was created, Bereishit, with all of his moral shortcomings, has the ability to attain the moral perfection set before him by God. Now, you write this down on your notepads. The possibility of sinning is part of the moral perfection. This is going to be strange to some folks. The possibility of sinning is part of his moral perfection. It is a basic condition for his moral freedom. It is a basic condition for his moral freedom. The ability, the opportunity to sin is part of our moral freedom, part of our moral perfection. Both the world and man will reach the highest ideal of the good for which both were created. They will achieve this level of good because God, who has placed his goal before them, has created them both for this goal in accordance with his free, unlimited will. See, there's hope in Bereishit. There's no hope in fate, but there's hope in Bereishit. In the beginning, the perfect will of God was laid out on this earth. He gave it the opportunity and the ability to sin as a part of his moral perfection. It's a part of his freedom. But God tells us, Rabbi Hirsch goes on and tells us, and we're going to learn this when we get deeper into the first couple of verses here, who has placed this goal before them. He has created them both for this goal in accordance with his free ultimate will. He could have created a different creation, a different world, and a different man. Had this served his purpose that he had set before them in his freedom, he set before us the ability to sin, the ability to overcome, the ability to grow as part of our freedom. And we're going to see, like I said later on, we're going to see this when we get to especially Genesis chapter 2. So we see then in Bereishit the foundation of our awareness of God, the world, and man. When man lost his awareness, it had to be reestablished, and we're going to get into that later on. But we see here in Bereishit, this first word, the foundations of the awareness of God, awareness of the world, and awareness of man. Scotty, go ahead.
Takes me a few more clicks to get back over here.
Like I said, and that's only a scratch on what I could bring to you on Bereishit, but we'd be here for several weeks getting it. But it's not all pertinent for our understanding for our walk with God is in the nations.
Yeah, it's a great start. Great start. So I just want to. This is my personal discussion take. I think I want to try to put in here is when you were talking about the law of kind locked up inside of a seed. It is so that's genetics, genetic code of what that tree, what that seed is going to be. So I remember years ago I did this study on seeds and plants, and I listened to a couple of lectures. And not only what is that seed locked in that seed is its future, what it's going to be, but also locked in that seed is everything from its past, what it took to get right there in your hand. That seed.
That'd make a good sermon.
Yeah, I know that's what I did. but you know, we are like that. But anyway, we won't get into that. But
we'll get Scotty, write that down, note it down, because we'll probably we'll be getting that when we get to Genesis 1:11.
Okay. But that's a great discussion when you get into that. I listened to Rabbi here, the name, I listened to so many, and I apologize. I can't quote the name of who was talking about this. And I think you mentioned it a couple times. But a blade of grass don't look at a mighty oak tree and say, "Hey, I wish I want to be a mighty oak tree."
Rabbi Hirsch discusses that in Genesis chapter 1:11.
Okay, that's where I got it from.
Here's where you got it from.
Okay, and
but
so
tonight's word, Bereishit, in the beginning, from the beginning. It's a very important word because from that word we gain in a nutshell. If you want to write this down, the word Bereishit brings to us our awareness of God, our awareness of the world, and our awareness of man. From that one word, we become aware, of God and His creation. It's where we first meet Him. We first become aware.
All right. Also, I want to mention that I went over to Rumble and I got that link for Simply Noahide, and I put it on the Facebook page. I put it in the chat in YouTube, and I put it on the chat right here in the Zoom room.
Yeah, those are good. Some little things that Veronica's doing is really good. There'll be short videos, they're about 5 minutes or so, something like that. They're really good, 5-10 minutes.
Yeah, they're really good, really good. All right, Terry.
Well, we got any questions coming in?
No. It's surprisingly quiet tonight. I guess they're taking notes.
Okay.
I'm hoping.
Got to get ready. You're fixing to get an email box full.
Yeah. So, all right. Well, I will bring us to a close, and we appreciate everybody spending time with us tonight. There are a few over on YouTube, and we've got the Georgia group text and said they're ready. They're been listening 2 weeks ago and then tonight, and so we appreciate them and others. And listen, while you come on over to the YouTube channel, while you're there, go ahead and subscribe to that channel, hit that notification bell. You'll be notified every time a new video goes up, and send us questions or just send us, "Hey, I'm listening. Hey, I'm enjoying." You can send that email to outreachnoah@gmail.com. Appreciate everybody coming tonight.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, yes. And we'll see you next week.
Yes.
Bye bye.
Bye bye.